Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to Princeton University Chapel. I am Reverend Terrence McCory, a member of the chapel staff, and I am here to briefly review some simple but important logistics. I invite you to please take out one of these or one of these and either turn it off, which would be miraculous, or at the very least, please silence them. Now please take a look around this glorious chapel and find your nearest exit. It is often not where you entered. The exits are here to my left, the south side doorway with handicap ramp, in the middle of the north side of the sanctuary, and at the entrance lobby, there are exits in each corner and the main doors. You'll also notice the red exit signs at each door. Thank you for your attention, and please stand and join in singing, "Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee."
Great class of 2024, my prayer for you at this, your baccalaureate, is a favorite of mine from the Reverend Dr. William Sloane Coffin. May God give you the grace not to sell yourself short, grace to risk something big for something good, to remember that the world is now too dangerous for anything but truth and too small for anything but love. Amen. Let us be seated.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Baccalaureate service, one of Princeton's oldest and grandest traditions. Originally called a sermon, the Baccalaureate service is intended to provide moments of reflection for members of Princeton's graduating senior class in between the revelry of reunions and the celebrations of Class Day and commencement. By long-standing, if unwritten tradition, all of the members of the graduating class and everyone else present are invited to remove their caps if it's hot in the chapel. As we begin these reflections, I would like to take a moment to recognize those who cannot be with us today. The Princeton community grieves for those whom we have lost on this campus and beyond it. Please join me now in a moment of silence to remember and honor those who are with us now only in spirit and memory. Thank you. In the first recorded baccalaureate address in 1760, President Samuel Davies exhorted the 11 members of the graduating class to serve their generation. Live not for yourself, but the public, he told them. In 18th century syntax that now seems badly dated, he expressed sentiments that remain strikingly relevant. Esteem yourselves by so much the more happy, honorable, and important by how much the more useful you are. We might say today, measure your success by the good that you do. President Davies' words reflect the spirit that has sustained Princeton over the 264 years since he uttered them in the prayer hall of Nassau Hall. All Princetonians take great pride in our shared mission to be in the nation's service and the service of humanity. It is a mission you upheld in many ways during your time here. Some of you engaged in direct service, volunteering with the PACE Center in the communities surrounding Princeton, participating in service projects, or serving within the university as a student leader. Others of you chose the path of advocacy, raising voices to argue for justice or to assist those in need. Many of you harnessed Princeton's intellectual resources to conduct research on pressing issues ranging from environmental sustainability to economic development to inequality in healthcare. All of you, I hope, grew as thinkers and as citizens. Now, as you prepare to make the transition from students to alumni, I hope Princeton's mission will continue to shape your lives. At the heart of our community is the desire and responsibility to make the world a better place. As you enter your next stage of life as a Princetonian, I know that you have left our campus better than when you arrived, and that you are poised to have the same impact on the world around us. For that, you have my deepest respect and gratitude.
Good afternoon. This reading comes from the Holy Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verses 47 and 48. Karmani evadhikarasthe ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalahetur bhur ma the sangostva karmani yogasta kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. You have a right to perform your prescribed duties, but you are not entitled to the fruits of your actions. Never consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your activities, nor be attached to an action. Be steadfast in the performance of your duty, O Arjuna, abandoning attachment to success and failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'll be reciting the 93rd chapter of the Holy Quran titled The Morning Sunlight. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, by the morning sunlight and the night when it falls still, your Lord has not forsaken you, nor does he hate you, and the next life is certainly far better for you than this one. Your Lord is sure to give you so much that you will be well satisfied. Did he not find you an orphan and then shelter you, and did he not find you lost and then guide you? And did he not find you needy, then satisfied your needs? So do not oppress the orphan, and do not chide the one who asks for help, and proclaim the blessings of your Lord. Thank you.
Psalm 19, verses 1 through 10, read first in Hebrew and then responsively in English. Lamnatsea mizmor le David. Hashamayim mesaprim kevod el umaaseh yadav magid halkia. Yom leyom yabia omer valayla lalayla yahveh da'at. En omer ve'en devarim beli nishma kolam. Bechol haaretz yatsa kavam uvikse tevel milehem lashemesh sham ohel bahem. Vehu kechatan yotze mechupato yasis kegibor larutz orach. Mikse hashamayim motzao utkufato al ketzotam ve'en nistar mechamato. Torat Adonai temima meshivat nafesh edut Adonai ne'emana machimat peti. Pikudei Adonai Yesharim, Mesamche Lev, Mitzvat Adonai Bara Meirat Enayim. Yirat Adonai Tehora, Omedet Le'ad Mishpate Adonai, Emet Sadku Yachdav. Hanechem Adim Mizahav Umipaz Rav Umtukim, Midvash Venofet Sufim. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows forth God's handiwork. Although they have no words or language, and their voices are not heard, in the deep has God set a pavilion for the sun. It comes forth like a bridegroom out of his chamber. It rejoices like a champion to run its course. The law of the Lord is perfect and revives the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure and gives wisdom to the innocent. The fear of the Lord is clean and endures forever. The judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. Thank you.
A reading from the letter of James. But be doers of the word, and not merely hearers who deceive themselves. For if any are hearers of the word and not doers, they are like those who look at themselves in a mirror. For they look at themselves and, on going away, immediately forget what they were like. But those who look into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and persevere, being not hearers who forget, but doers who act, will be blessed in their doing. If any think they are religious and do not bridle their tongues but deceive their hearts, their religion is worthless. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God, the Creator, is this: to care for orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself unstained by the word.
I now have the pleasure of introducing our baccalaureate speaker, the Honorable Nusrat Choudhury of the Eastern District of New York, a member of Princeton's graduate class of 2006. Judge Choudhury was appointed as a United States District Court judge in 2023, becoming the first Muslim woman and the first Bangladeshi American in United States history to serve as a federal judge. Prior to her historic appointment to the bench, Judge Choudhury was the Roger Pascal Legal Director at the American Civil Liberties Union of Illinois, where she oversaw a team of lawyers advancing civil rights and civil liberties across the state. Judge Choudhury also served for more than a decade in various roles at the National American Civil Liberties Union, including as Deputy Director in the ACLU Racial Justice Program and staff attorney in the ACLU National Security Project, handling complex federal cases on behalf of those who could not afford counsel. In celebrating her confirmation as a federal judge, Anthony Romero, a member of Princeton's class of 1987 and the executive director of the ACLU, described Judge Choudhury as a trailblazing civil rights lawyer with a remarkable record of advancing equal justice for all in our nation. While at the ACLU, Judge Choudhury filed path-breaking lawsuits to stop racial profiling and to change criminal justice procedures that disproportionately punished poor people. She fought to protect immigrants from dangerous detention conditions, and she obtained a court-ordered settlement that protected Muslim Americans against unlawful surveillance. Her team advanced free speech rights, voting rights, the rights of LGBTQ people, and a wide range of other fundamental freedoms. Judge Choudhury earned her BA summa cum laude from Columbia University, her Master's of Public Affairs with distinction from the Princeton School of Public and International Affairs, and her JD from the Yale Law School. Following law school, she clerked for Judge Barrington D. Parker, Jr. of the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit and for Judge Denise L. Cote of the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York. Among her many honors and awards, she is a recipient of the South Asian Bar Association of New York Access to Justice Award and the School of Public and International Affairs Edward Bullard Distinguished Alumnus Award. From her outstanding record of advocacy in the public interest to her trailblazing appointment as a federal judge, she has exemplified the university's mission of service to the nation and humanity throughout her incredible career. We are honored that she is with us today to offer words of wisdom to our graduating seniors on the path that lies ahead. Please join me now in welcoming Nusrat Choudhury of Princeton's graduate class of 2006.
Thank you, President Eisgruber, for your generous words and your warm welcome. I am so honored to be here with all of you on this very special day and in this very special place. Families, I know how proud you are of your graduates. Many of you have sacrificed for your students and loved ones to be here today. Faculty and staff, congratulations on shepherding another remarkable class through their Princeton journey. And to the class of 2024, you started college during a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, and our world continues to bring you its utmost challenges. You have been through so much, you have met and endured, and you are on the verge of graduating with a deep and meaningful education from this great institution. You have worked so hard to reach this day. Please give yourselves a huge round of applause. This is a time of celebration, and I know a lot of you are celebrating, as you should. It's also a time of reflection, a time to think about what you will do with this great gift of the education that Princeton has given you, because that is what it is, a gift. I remember thinking deeply about this exact question, what I would do with the benefit of my Princeton education. When I was accepted to the Master's in Public Administration program at Princeton, I felt like I had won the lottery. And in some ways, I literally had. I got the chance to study on this beautiful campus on a full scholarship and with a living stipend. And before coming here, I had been living in New York, working with community-based organizations serving children and women in need, including Black and Latina mothers struggling to break cycles of poverty, addiction, and sexual abuse that had entangled them in the criminal system. I saw how those women met unequal justice in the legal system, and I wanted to pursue a joint degree in law and public policy to get the skills and training I needed to advance equal justice under the law. Princeton gave me the chance to complement my legal training by learning about multidisciplinary approaches to some of the most intractable public problems of our day, and to learn from Nobel laureates and leading practitioners alongside classmates who hailed from around the globe, people with life experiences very different from my own, but experiences from which I knew I could and should learn. It also meant moving up the hill that way to the graduate college, which some of you may have ignored during your 4 years here, and that's totally okay. Moving into a dorm room and eating most of my meals in a Gothic-style dining hall, straight out of Hogwarts, minus the robes and the owls. And even though I was in my mid-20s at that point, I loved every minute of it. I knew that Princeton was special. And that was because it was never foreordained that somebody like me would study here. And that was possible only because decades before I was born, my father made a courageous choice, one that my mother reaffirmed after they were married. They both left everyone and everything they knew and loved in a country half a world away, now known as Bangladesh, leaving behind all of that familiarity to come here to the United States to forge a new life. Because of their courage and vision, I had the chance to live here in America, in a country where I had the opportunity to work as hard as I could to pursue my education and eventually a career that people in my family in Bangladesh could only dream of, including and especially many women and girls. My late father grew up at a time when Bangladesh was part of the British Empire. He was a colonial subject. And at the time, there were prevailing stereotypes about what he, as a Bengali and a Muslim growing up in a rural community, could accomplish. But he was driven, and he left home to go to school. He boarded with his teachers and eventually made it to medical school in the region's capital, Dhaka. He was so smart and so good in his quiet, humble way that he was the first person from the land that is now Bangladesh to win a Fulbright grant. He got the Fulbright, and he used it to travel to the United States in 1957, where he worked as a doctor in a hospital. And this was before smartphones and messaging apps. He missed his family deeply and painfully. Letters were few and infrequent. But he was good at his work. He loved his colleagues and his patients, and he loved the United States. He became a neurologist, a doctor of the brain, and was so good at what he did, he got the chance to study in London and in Glasgow. But even as he got those opportunities, he dreamed of America. When he got the chance to do his residency here in the United States, he jumped at it. He came back and eventually settled in Chicago, where he worked as a physician for more than 40 years. He served U.S. veterans as a physician in the U.S. Veterans Administration Hospital. There was a neurologist shortage in the city of Chicago, so he worked at multiple hospitals, serving Chicago's diverse communities. And he taught medicine at the University of Illinois in Chicago. And when my mother joined him here in the United States, together they founded the American Bangladeshi community in the city of Chicago. And they served as community leaders. They made our home a place where people came when they needed advice on how to navigate this country, when they needed encouragement, a warm meal, or a place to stay. And they helped so many people. So many people came in and out of our house that my older brother joked at one point that actually we might be living in an outpost of the Holiday Inn. And every few years, when we would take our summer vacations and travel to Bangladesh to see our family, many of whom still lived there, dozens of people would line up outside of my grandmother's home or my uncle's apartment because they knew that the doctor was there from America. They needed someone to help treat them. They didn't know what was wrong. And even though my father was on his vacation, long into the night, he would see and speak to and treat every single person. And often, he would purchase their medication himself because he knew they didn't have the means to pay for it. My mother was the CEO of our extended circle of family and friends, raising 3 children, sacrificing her own education to help 2 of her brothers, who were also physicians, to immigrate to the United States with their families. She worked 2 jobs, did countless hours of community work, and visited people in our community who were sick or needed help. She also was active in interfaith activities. My father modeled for me what it meant to be the first in a community to do something. And my parents together modeled for me that with great opportunities come even greater responsibilities. The responsibility to treat others with dignity and respect. The responsibility to share knowledge, and the responsibility to do what we can to make the path a little easier for those who follow those of us who are the first. With parents like these, it was no surprise that I was committed to using my education and training and skills to help make our world a better place. As a student, I immersed myself in studying the history of our country and our government, and I was inspired and became a little obsessed with our Constitution and its promise, most of all, for equal justice under the law, a promise that is not available in other countries of our world. And I just wanted to find the best way that I could help advance that enduring promise. So while pursuing my joint degree in law and public administration, I tried every kind of public interest work in the law that you could think of. That took me to working on peace and ethnic conflict resolution in Bosnia-Herzegovina, to doing human rights documentation in India, to working on the investigation of war crimes in Uganda, but from the International Criminal Court in The Hague. And it took me to an internship at the National American Civil Liberties Union in New York. And by taking those chances and doing lots of different kinds of jobs, I learned that there are so many ways to advance equal justice under the law and found my own path. For nearly 14 years, I worked as a litigator at the American Civil Liberties Union, bringing litigation to uphold the values of the U.S. Constitution and the rule of law on behalf of poor people, U.S. veterans, women, people of color, immigrants, and others facing violations of their constitutional rights. The people I represented couldn't afford a lawyer. None of them would have had a day in court had it not been for the work that I and my colleagues did on their behalf pro bono. Yet their cases were tremendously important. not just for themselves, but for our country. They sought to ensure that all people are treated fairly and equally by the legal system and law enforcement, regardless of wealth, race, ethnicity, religion, disability, or other characteristics. And through this work, I met Americans from all walks of life. I traveled across the country and spoke to people in community halls in Milwaukee and New York City, in homes and trailers in the Mississippi Delta and the South Carolina coast, and in prisons and jails in Illinois and Georgia. And I listened to their lived experiences. I learned how to advocate for their constitutional rights in the highest courts in our land. And on behalf of these people, I brought emergency lawsuits to protect immigrants from dangerous conditions in Illinois jails, class action lawsuits against the unlawful jailing of poor people, poor mothers, simply because they could not afford to pay fines and fees, even though they were never given a lawyer or a court hearing where they could explain to a judge that they simply couldn't afford to pay. And I worked with community members in Milwaukee and New York to help bring litigation to advance constitutional, safe, and effective policing, not policing based on race or religion. And almost every person I represented was not looking for financial compensation. They were looking to address violations of their rights and to help ensure that what happened to them wouldn't happen to others. And my job was to ensure that the legal representation they got was of the highest caliber. Representation that was every bit as meticulous and effective and thorough as that which Fortune 500 companies can pay for. And to my great surprise, in many of these cases, actually a majority of them, I was able to reach across and speak with people with very different viewpoints, representing defendants in these cases, and to talk to them about how to settle the cases for significant reforms to prevent constitutional violations from happening in the future. By doing this, we achieved so much more for our clients and to enforce equal justice under the law. And not only did these lawsuits, whether they resulted in settlements or court orders, change practices in specific places where we sued, they led to statewide changes that helped hundreds of thousands of people in Georgia, Mississippi, New York, South Carolina, Washington, Wisconsin, and other places. This is the work I was doing when the process opened up for a job application to serve as a U.S. District Judge. And although I loved my work as an advocate, I thought it was important for someone who had represented people who could not afford a lawyer to apply. And last year, after being recommended by Senator Schumer, nominated by the President, and confirmed by the Senate, I became a U.S. District Judge and the first Muslim woman and Bangladeshi American to be confirmed in this role since the Judiciary Act was passed in 1789, in about 235 years. And I believe that I have the best job in America. Every day, I go to work in a United States courthouse, and I work along public servants to help advance justice in cases small and large, brought by people and entities from all corners of our society. The issues we resolve range from the relatively straightforward to the extraordinarily complex and novel, and some of them involve even the most sensitive and challenging questions of our time. But in every single case, in every single court appearance, I have the chance to ensure that the people who come to a federal court, the entities that come as plaintiffs or defendants, or as the government, as the prosecution, or as a criminal defendant in the case before me, is treated with dignity and respect. and that they get a fair chance to be heard. Since my confirmation as a judge, I have heard from hundreds of people, young people, people working in public interest law, American Muslims, Bangladeshi Americans, frankly, Americans of all races, religions, and backgrounds, and from people across the world. They expressed to me pride in my confirmation to serve as a U.S. District Judge. They tell me that my confirmation shows them that they too can be seen for their own excellence and can get the chance to work at the highest levels of their chosen profession. They tell me that watching me be selected as a federal judge after a career dedicated entirely to representing people who couldn't afford attorneys shows them that pursuit of the work in public interest can lead people to cultivate the skills needed to serve our country and to serve in the important role of a federal judge. And I'm glad that each and every one of these people feel inspired, because they should. Because our country is inspiring. And it's my hope that each and every one of the young people who have contacted me will work hard, will pursue their education, and will one day apply, just as I did, because after all, it starts with a job application, to serve in the role of a U.S. District Judge. And I hope that they too will be able to take the oath that I took, the oath to defend and protect the United States Constitution, to provide equal treatment to rich and poor, and to ensure that each case that comes to our federal courts is decided fairly and impartially, and that by doing so, to ensure that the rule of law remains the backbone of our democracy, the necessary foundation of the life and the liberty that we all hold dear. This is the oath that will govern my work for the rest of my days on this earth. And fulfilling this oath every day with honor and with gratitude is my way of paying forward to my country and to other human beings all that I have given and received because of that courageous decision that my parents made so many decades ago. To the class of 2024, I wish you lives filled with meaningful and rewarding work that makes use of what are your great talents and pays those talents forward to those around you. I hope that as you move forward in your chosen professions, you approach different opinions and perspectives not as a threat, but as opportunities to learn. And I hope that you, like me, take advantage of the fact that you may achieve more than you ever dreamed possible by finding opportunities to work with those with whom you may actually disagree, even where those disagreements may be significant. Acknowledge those differences and disagreements, understand them, and then find the common ground. And I urge you to take chances, experiment, and understand that there is no single path forward in a meaningful life. There is just taking stock of where you are at each stage to make sure you are in a role to allow you to be the change you want to see in the world, and to make sure that every day you are doing work that you actually love to do. I cannot wait to see all and to read about all that you will collectively accomplish. Class of 2024, you have already shown that you can achieve. Go out there and achieve some more. I wish you the best of luck and success.
Please rise. Join me in our responsive prayer. Blessed are you, O God, creator of life. You give us purpose and hope. Blessed are you, eternal truth. You give us minds to know you and the things that you have made. Blessed are you, source of all mercy. You know our weakness, and you are always ready to forgive. Blessed are you, lover of our souls. You bind in one community the living and the dead. Blessed are you, wellspring of all wisdom.
Let us say together the prayer for Princeton. O eternal God, the source of life and light for all peoples, we pray you would endow this university with your grace and wisdom. Give inspiration and understanding to those who teach and to those who learn. Grant vision to its trustees and administrators. To all who work here and to all who bear her name, give your guiding spirit of sacrificial courage and loving service. Amen.
A prayer from the Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh. Lakh khushiyan patshahiyan je Satgur nadar kare. Nimak ek har naam de mera man tan seetal hoye. Jisko purab likhiya tin Satgur charan gaye. Safal murat saflan gari jit sache naal pyar. Hundreds of thousands of princely pleasures are enjoyed if the true Guru bestows his glance of grace. If he bestows the name of the Lord for even a moment, my mind and body are cooled. Those who have such preordained destiny hold tight to the feet of the true Guru. Fruitful is that moment and fruitful is that time when one is in love with the true Lord. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.
A Buddhist blessing from the Udana, a Pali collection of verses spoken by the Venerable Buddha. At that time, the Blessed One sat cross-legged for 7 days, experiencing the bliss of freedom. With the passing of the 7th day, he emerged from that concentration, surveying the world with the eye of an awakened one. As he did so, he saw living beings tormented by a great many torments, in a flame with the many fires born of greed, anger, and confusion. Upon realizing the significance of this, he exclaimed, Ayang loko santa pajato, passa pareto rogang barati attato, yena himanyati, tato tang hoti anyata, anyata bhavi bhavasato loko, bhava pareto, bhava meva binandati, yara binandati tang bayang, yassa bayati tang dukhang, bhava vipahanayako, panidang brahmacharyang vusati. This world is burning. Afflicted by contact, the self is spoken of as a disease. For whatever it thinks something is, it always turns out to be something else. And because the world always becomes something else, it is attached to becoming, afflicted by becoming, and yet delights in that very becoming. Where there is delight, there is fear. Where there is fear, there is suffering. Thus, this holy life is lived for the abandoning of becoming.
A secular blessing from Arundhati Roy. Whatever it is, coronavirus has made the mighty kneel and brought the world to a halt, like nothing else could. Our minds are still racing back and forth, longing for a return to normality, trying to stitch our future to our past and refusing to acknowledge the rupture. But the rupture exists, and in the midst of this terrible despair, it offers us a chance to rethink the doomsday machine we have built for ourselves. Nothing could be worse than a return to normality. Historically, pandemics have forced humans to break with the past and imagine their world anew. This one is no different. It is a portal, a gateway between one world and the next. We can choose to walk through it, dragging the carcasses of our prejudice and hatred, our avarice, our databanks and dead ideas, our dead rivers and smoky skies behind us. Or we can walk through lightly with little luggage, ready to imagine another world and ready to fight for it.
Receive now this benediction. Class of 2024, nothing could have prepared you for today. No courses, no teachers or guides could have prepared you for the unfolding of your lives during your time here at Princeton University. So we give thanks and we pray. May you always remember and celebrate the unexpected ways that circumstance and time met you in the moment, and you showed up. You showed up on this campus amid the unknown while the world navigated loss and grief. You showed up to friendships forged in dance and a cappella groups, hybrid learning behind screens, and residential colleges. May you always, always remember the extraordinary that you found in the seemingly ordinary moments of community engagement projects, music meditations, and countless precepts. These moments have shaped you, and they will continue to do so in the future. But most importantly, I pray, may you always remember the countless ways that you showed up to this community, our global community, one another, and yourselves. We give thanks for all that was, all that is, and for all that will be. Class of 2024, keep showing up. Amen.